How to Be Happy Alone, written and published by Book Boost. In life, people come and go. Sometimes, we find ourselves alone, not by choice, but by circumstances. At first, it feels strange. The silence, the emptiness, the absence of familiar voices. But what if this moment of being alone is not a curse but a gift? Book Boost brings you powerful lessons from How to Be Happy Alone, a book that changes the way we see solitude. This is not about loneliness. This is about discovering a hidden power, one that can turn an empty room into a place of peace, a quiet moment into a journey of self-growth. Many people fear being alone because they think happiness comes from others. But is that really true? What if real happiness has been within us all along? What if learning to be alone is the key to becoming stronger, wiser, and truly free? This journey will reveal something incredible, something that can change how you live, how you think, and how you feel every single day. Stay with us till the last part, because what you are about to hear might be the answer you've been searching for. Before we dive in, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Book Boost, because powerful books create powerful lives. Finding joy within, the power of self-discovery. Being alone is not the same as being lonely. This is the first lesson of the journey. The world teaches people that happiness comes from others, from relationships, from constant company. But true happiness is something deeper. It is something that lives inside. There was once a person who feared being alone. They always needed someone to talk to, someone to be around. But one day, life changed. People left, routines broke, and silence filled their days. At first, it was painful. But slowly, something unexpected happened. In the silence, they started hearing their own voice. A voice they had ignored for years. This is what happens when a person spends time alone. They start understanding their own thoughts, their own feelings. They begin to see who they really are. And this is where happiness starts, not from the outside world, but from within. Many people try to escape solitude. They distract themselves with noise, with screens, with endless activities. But the truth is, running away from solitude is like running away from oneself. Those who embrace it, who face it with courage, discover something beautiful. Their own company is enough. One of the greatest lessons in this journey is learning to enjoy small moments. A quiet morning with a book. A walk under the open sky. A meal enjoyed without rushing. These moments, so simple yet so powerful, teach a person to be present. And in presence, happiness is found. There is no need to wait for someone to make life interesting. A person who enjoys their own company never feels empty. They learn new things, develop new skills, explore new places, all because they are no longer afraid of being alone. Self-love is another key lesson. Many people search for love outside, hoping someone else will complete them. But happiness grows when a person learns to love themselves first. Taking care of the body, respecting the mind, and believing in one's worth, these are not selfish acts. They are the foundation of true happiness. The power of self-talk cannot be ignored. People who struggle with being alone often fill their minds with negative thoughts. I am alone because I am not enough. But this is not the truth. The truth is, being alone is an opportunity, not a punishment. And when a person changes their inner words, their world begins to change too. Solitude also teaches the importance of peace. The world is full of noise, expectations, pressures. But a person who finds happiness alone learns that they do not need to please everyone. They do not need to prove anything. They can simply be themselves, and that is enough. Another lesson is that being alone allows a person to understand their real dreams. When surrounded by people, their voices influence decisions. But in solitude, a person can finally ask, what do I truly want? What makes me happy? And in this clarity, a new path begins to unfold. Strength is another gift of solitude. A person who learns to be happy alone becomes unshakable. They do not fear loneliness, because they know they are complete. This strength reflects in every part of life, in relationships, in work, in decisions. Not everyone will understand this journey. Some may say, you need people to be happy. But the truth is, a person who is happy alone brings even greater joy to others. They do not depend on anyone, but they share their happiness freely. The world moves fast, and people come and go. But a person who finds joy within never feels lost. They carry their happiness wherever they go, because it is not tied to anyone or anything. Hobbies, passions, creativity, these flourish when a person spends time alone. They discover hidden talents, explore new interests, and grow in ways they never imagined. What once felt like an empty space becomes a space full of life. Nature becomes a close friend in solitude. The sky, the trees, the wind, all of it speaks in silence. A person who embraces being alone starts noticing the beauty around them, and this brings peace. One of the most powerful lessons is understanding that happiness is a choice. Some people are surrounded by many, yet feel lonely. Others are alone, yet feel completely at peace. The difference is in mindset and the way they see their own life. This journey is not about never needing people. It is about learning that happiness does not depend on them. When a person realizes they are enough, they can build healthier, stronger connections with others, without fear, without need, only with love. Happiness alone is not the end of the road. It is the beginning of something bigger, a life that is no longer controlled by loneliness, but guided by strength and self-love. As the journey continues, the real magic begins, learning how to turn solitude into a source of power. How to not just be happy alone, but to thrive in it. And this is where the next step begins. Stay with Book Boost as we uncover how solitude can become the greatest strength of all. Turning solitude into strength, thriving alone. There was a time when being alone felt like a burden, but as the journey continued, something beautiful started to unfold. Solitude was no longer a punishment. It became a space for growth, a time to understand oneself, and a path to true freedom. The book reveals that happiness doesn't come from the outside world. It comes from within. People, events, and situations change, but inner peace remains for those who learn to embrace solitude. Instead of fearing being alone, one can use it as an opportunity to reconnect with themselves. One of the most powerful lessons is learning to enjoy one's own company. Instead of seeking distractions, a person can start doing things that bring them joy, reading, writing, walking, or simply sitting in silence. These small moments create a deep sense of peace that no external source can provide. Many believe that being alone means being unloved. But the book teaches that the most important love is self-love. When a person values and respects themselves, they no longer feel incomplete. They don't need others to validate their worth because they already know it. A person who learns to be happy alone becomes stronger. They no longer depend on others for their happiness, and this independence brings confidence. They make choices based on what truly matters to them, not out of fear of being left behind. Another lesson is to turn solitude into a time of learning. Instead of seeing it as an empty space, it can be filled with new knowledge, skills, and passions. People who grow alone build a life that excites them, making solitude a blessing rather than a curse. When someone embraces solitude, they also develop emotional strength. They learn to handle their feelings instead of running from them. They face their fears, heal their wounds, and emerge wiser and more at peace. The book explains that true happiness comes when a person stops waiting for someone else to complete them. They realize they were never broken. They were always whole, but they needed solitude to see it. Being alone also brings clarity. Without the noise of the world, a person can hear their own thoughts, understand their true desires, and make decisions that align with their heart. This clarity leads to a more meaningful and fulfilling life. The journey of being happy alone is also about self-discovery. Many people spend their lives trying to fit into society's expectations, but solitude gives them a chance to ask, who am I really? What I truly want? One of the most inspiring lessons is that solitude is not loneliness. Loneliness is feeling empty inside, but solitude is being full of life, even when no one else is around. The difference lies in mindset, and shifting that mindset changes everything. People who enjoy their own company attract better relationships. They don't seek others out of desperation, but out of genuine connection. They choose people who uplift them rather than just fill a void. Happiness alone also comes from gratitude. Instead of focusing on what's missing, a person can focus on what they have. Every small joy, sunlight through the window, a cup of tea, a moment of peace, becomes something to appreciate. The book reminds that life is always changing. Sometimes, people will be surrounded by loved ones, and other times, they will walk alone. But those who find happiness within will never feel lost, no matter the situation. Turning solitude into strength is a journey, not a one-time decision. It requires patience, practice, and a shift in perspective. But once a person experiences true happiness alone, they will never fear solitude again. Instead of seeing alone time as empty space, it can be filled with meaning. A walk in nature, a deep conversation with oneself, a moment of silence, these become powerful sources of happiness. The world often teaches that happiness comes from relationships, success, and achievements. But the book shows that happiness is much simpler. It is found in the present moment, in the peace of being content with oneself. Those who master the art of being happy alone unlock a secret power. They become free from external expectations, free from fear, and free from the need to constantly seek approval. They live life on their own terms. As this journey continues, one thing becomes clear: being alone is not something to escape from. It is something to embrace. And in that embrace, true happiness is found. Now, as the final part approaches, a deeper truth will be revealed, one that will change the way solitude is seen forever. Stay until the end, because the last lesson might be the most powerful of all. Happiness is an inside job. Final thoughts. Happiness was never about having a crowd around. It was never about constant conversations, busy schedules, or waiting for someone else to bring joy. True happiness is found in the quietest moments, in the simplest things, in the heart that learns to be at peace, alone. He once feared solitude, thinking it was a sign of emptiness. But the more he embraced it, the more he realized something powerful. Being alone didn't mean being lonely. It meant freedom. Freedom to think, to grow, to understand himself better. It was in these quiet moments that he found the real meaning of happiness. The biggest lesson he learned was that happiness doesn't come from others. It comes from within. People may come and go, but inner peace stays forever if it is built from within. He no longer waited for someone to make him feel valued. He valued himself. At first, the silence felt unfamiliar. But soon, it became his greatest teacher. In silence, he heard his own thoughts clearly. He realized how much noise had controlled his life. Now, he had the power to choose what thoughts to entertain, what emotions to embrace, and what dreams to follow. Loneliness fades when one starts enjoying their own company. He learned to do things that made him happy: reading, walking, exploring new hobbies. The more time he spent with himself, the more he understood what truly made him feel alive. He stopped seeking validation. He no longer needed approval to feel important. He realized that the only approval he ever needed was his own. This changed everything. He started making decisions that felt right for him, without the fear of judgment. Solitude taught him resilience. There were days when he wished for someone to be there, but he didn't break. Instead, he grew stronger. He learned to rely on himself, to face challenges without fear. He became his own supporter, his own motivator, his own guide. Instead of fearing loneliness, he turned it into strength. He created a life where he was enough. A life where he could enjoy a meal alone, take a walk without company, and still feel complete. Because completeness was never about who stood beside him, it was about who he became when he stood alone. Every moment spent alone was a step towards self-discovery. He saw himself more clearly, without distractions. He found his true interests, his real passions, and most importantly, his purpose. People often run from solitude, but he embraced it. And in doing so, he found a happiness that could never be taken away. He no longer feared being alone because he knew he was his own best friend. This journey taught him another important lesson: self-love is not selfish. It is necessary. He learned to treat himself with kindness, to speak gently to himself, to appreciate his own efforts. The way he treated himself changed the way he felt about life. Happiness became simpler. It wasn't in big achievements or in the presence of many people. It was in the small joys: watching the sunset, feeling the wind, listening to music, reading a book. He found joy in things he once overlooked. Life felt lighter. Without the burden of expectations, without the pressure to always be surrounded by others, he felt free. He no longer needed distractions to escape his thoughts. His mind was now a peaceful place. There was a time he thought happiness was in someone else's hands. But now he knew it was always within him. He just needed to stop searching outside and start looking inside. Happiness was never about the number of friends or the attention received. It was about self-acceptance. The moment he accepted himself fully, happiness became natural. His journey proved that no one is truly alone when they are comfortable with themselves. When the heart is full of self-love, every moment feels complete. Now, he walked with confidence, knowing he didn't need anyone else to define his worth. He smiled, not because someone gave him a reason, but because he had learned the most valuable lesson of all: happiness is an inside job. This is the message Book Boost brings. Solitude is not something to fear, but something to embrace. Because in solitude, one finds the greatest treasure: self-discovery. And now, as this journey ends, one truth remains: the person who finds happiness alone finds happiness everywhere. If this message touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Book Boost, because powerful books create powerful lives.